If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The entire NFL community woke up to a rumor that feels almost impossible to process. A story that has spread like wildfire through social media feeds, radio shows, and late-night sports talk circles. Aaron Donald, the legendary defensive tackle who defined dominance for an entire decade in Los Angeles, is now reportedly linked to a blockbuster agreement with the Cleveland Browns. Fans are calling it the biggest shakeup in recent league history, something that could tilt the balance of power not just in the AFC North, but across the entire NFL landscape. Think about the impact here. A player who has spent his whole career tormenting quarterbacks, collapsing pockets, and redefining what it means to play on the defensive line, suddenly putting on the brown and orange uniform of a franchise historically defined by heartbreak and endless rebuilding cycles. This rumor suggests not only a massive financial package, but also a full strategic shift in how the Browns are approaching their window to win. With Myles Garrett already a cornerstone defensive monster, pairing him with Donald sounds like something out of a video game, a scenario where opposing offenses might simply have no answer. The entire NFL community woke up to a rumor that feels almost impossible to process, a story that has spread like wildfire through social media feeds, radio shows, and late-night sports talk circles. Aaron Donald, the legendary defensive tackle who defined dominance for an entire decade in Los Angeles, is now reportedly linked to a blockbuster agreement with the Cleveland Browns. Fans are calling it the biggest shakeup in recent league history, something that could tilt the balance of power not just in the AFC North, but across the entire NFL landscape. Think about the impact here. A player who has spent his whole career tormenting quarterbacks, collapsing pockets, and redefining what it means to play on the defensive line, suddenly putting on the brown and orange uniform of a franchise historically defined by heartbreak and endless rebuilding cycles. This rumor suggests not only a massive financial package, but also a full strategic shift in how the Browns are approaching their window to win. With Myles Garrett already a cornerstone defensive monster, pairing him with Donald sounds like something out of a video game, a scenario where opposing offenses might simply have no answer. The whispers began late last night when a handful of insiders on social media dropped cryptic posts hinting at a game-altering move involving a future Hall of Famer. At first, many assumed it had to do with Tom Brady's potential media projects or even a coaching hire, but the speculation gained speed when multiple accounts began referencing Cleveland. Cleveland? That immediately felt bizarre to most fans because historically the Browns have never been a free agent destination, especially not for a player of Donald's magnitude. And yet, one by one, respected voices in the football media confirmed that the Browns had been quietly working behind the scenes for weeks to secure what is being described as a mega agreement. No official numbers have been released, but the suggestion is that this could rival or even surpass some of the largest defensive contracts in NFL history. Suddenly, the impossible became believable, and Browns fans, long conditioned to disappointment, found themselves daring to dream about a defensive line that could instantly become the most feared unit in football. The rumor mill hasn't stopped since, and the buzz only continues to grow louder. For Aaron Donald, this move would represent a seismic personal shift. He's been the face of the Rams' defense for nearly a decade, a player who not only delivered individual greatness, but also anchored a Super Bowl-winning squad. Walking away from Los Angeles, the city that embraced him and where he built his legacy, would be nothing short of shocking. Yet, whispers suggest that Donald has been craving a new challenge, perhaps motivated by both personal reasons and the hunger to cement his dominance in an entirely different context. Some insiders speculate that he was frustrated with the Rams' recent struggles and the uncertainty around their long-term competitiveness. Others claim he was intrigued by the idea of joining forces with Myles Garrett, forming a duo that could redefine what's possible on a defensive line. Think about that. Two generational talents lined up next to each other, wreaking havoc on any offense unlucky enough to face them. If true, Donald wouldn't just be leaving Los Angeles. He'd be reshaping the balance of power in the entire AFC. The shockwaves of this rumor are being felt everywhere. The Browns, for their part, appear to be fully leaning into this win-now mentality. For years, Cleveland has flirted with potential, always gathering talent but rarely translating it into consistent winning seasons. The Deshaun Watson saga has only added layers of controversy and doubt, but behind the scenes, the front office seems determined to push all their chips to the center of the table. Securing Aaron Donald would be the ultimate statement, a declaration to the league that they are no longer content with mediocrity. Instead, they want to contend for Super Bowls, not simply scrape together playoff appearances. Analysts are already pointing out that with Donald joining Garrett, the Browns' defense could rival some of the greatest defensive units in NFL history, drawing comparisons to the early 2000s Ravens or the Legion of Boom-era Seahawks. Cleveland, a city so often defined by sports heartbreak, suddenly finds itself the subject of national hype. And if this rumor is real, it's the kind of move that could alter the very trajectory of the franchise. Browns fans have waited decades for this kind of hope, and it's now within reach. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. Imagine the practical implications on the field. Opposing offensive coordinators would be forced to completely reconfigure their playbooks when facing Cleveland. Normally, you can chip block or double team a single superstar, but how do you stop two of the best pass rushers of their generation attacking from both sides? Quarterbacks would be forced to get rid of the ball in seconds, running games would collapse before they even started, and offensive lines would live in a state of panic from the first whistle. This isn't hyperbole. It's the kind of nightmare scenario that could single-handedly change how teams approach building their rosters. Wide receivers would become irrelevant if the quarterback never had time to throw, and running backs wouldn't have lanes with Donald collapsing the middle. Analysts are already debating whether this would make Cleveland's defense the undisputed #1 unit in the league before even playing a snap. Pair that with a strong secondary and a supportive home crowd at First Energy Stadium, and suddenly the Browns look like a legitimate Super Bowl contender, something that even the most optimistic fans could hardly have imagined just weeks ago. From the financial side, the deal being whispered about is staggering. Rumors suggest it's structured in a way that not only rewards Donald with record-setting guarantees, but also provides Cleveland with some flexibility in future cap years. That flexibility will be critical, as the Browns already have large sums tied to Watson and Garrett. To pull this off, the front office reportedly engaged in creative restructuring, spreading out bonuses and backloading portions of the contract to keep their championship window wide open. For Donald, the numbers represent both respect for his legendary status and a chance to secure one final historic payday before retirement enters the conversation. Some critics are questioning whether it's wise for Cleveland to commit so much money to a player in the later stages of his career, but supporters argue that Donald's training regimen, consistency, and sheer dominance prove he's still operating at an elite level. If this rumor becomes reality, it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about signaling to the entire league that Cleveland is done playing small and is ready to compete with the heavyweights of the NFL. The locker room dynamics would also be fascinating to watch. Aaron Donald has always been described as a leader by example, a player whose work ethic inspires everyone around him. In Cleveland, he would be joining a roster with strong personalities and a defensive leader already in place with Myles Garrett. Some are wondering if there could be a clash of egos, but those close to both players insist it would be more of a partnership than a rivalry. The idea of two alpha defenders pushing each other to greater heights is thrilling for fans who dream of seeing absolute chaos unleashed on opposing offenses. Coaches would have to carefully manage snaps, rotations, and game plans to maximize their impact without overloading either star. Younger players on the roster, meanwhile, would benefit from the rare opportunity to learn directly from two of the best defenders of the era. Imagine being a rookie defensive lineman walking into practice and finding Garrett on one side and Donald on the other. Talk about an education in greatness. This rumor isn't just about wins, it's about building a culture of dominance. National media outlets have already begun speculating on the ripple effects across the league if this move becomes official. In the AFC North alone, the pressure would skyrocket for teams like the Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Kenny Pickett would suddenly find themselves staring down the most terrifying pass rush in football twice a year. That could alter playoff races, redefine rivalries, and even force those franchises to rethink their offensive line strategies in a hurry. Beyond the division, Teams across the AFC would have to consider how they'd survive a potential playoff matchup against Cleveland. Could Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen handle constant harassment in the pocket? Would Miami's quick passing scheme stand up to relentless interior pressure? The entire competitive balance of the conference could shift dramatically, and that's why this rumor is generating so much electricity. It's not just about one signing. It's about a chain reaction that could completely change the postseason landscape. That's why insiders are calling it the most impactful rumor since Peyton Manning's free agency over a decade ago. Everyone is watching and waiting for confirmation. Of course, skepticism remains. Until the ink is dry and the team officially announces, rumors are still just rumors. Some skeptics argue that this could be a leverage play by Donald's representatives, designed to extract concessions from Los Angeles or another contender. Others think the Browns might be using Donald's name to create excitement among their fan base and put pressure on the locker room to raise their level of play. After all, it wouldn't be the first time Cleveland was linked to a superstar only for the deal to fall apart at the last minute. But even with the doubt, the sheer volume of chatter around this story is unusual. Too many voices, too many insiders are lining up behind it for this to be pure smoke. Fans are refreshing their feeds every few minutes, desperate for that breaking news graphic to flash across the screen confirming what feels like the wildest twist in recent memory. Until then, the speculation will continue to fuel debates, podcasts, and endless arguments on sports radio. Everyone wants to know, is this real, or is it just the latest tease in Browns history? Regardless of where the truth ultimately lands, the impact of this rumor is undeniable. Aaron Donald's name carries weight in a way few others do, and attaching him to Cleveland has elevated the Browns into the national conversation in a way that feels unprecedented. For years, the franchise has been trying to shed the label of perennial disappointment, and even the whisper of Donald in orange and brown has changed the tone. Suddenly, the Browns are not just a regional story but the center of league-wide attention, with analysts, fans, and players all chiming in. The debate rages. If this happens, does Cleveland become the new favorite in the AFC? Could this be the final piece of the puzzle that finally brings a Lombardi trophy to the shores of Lake Erie? That's the dream. That's the hope. And that's why this rumor is spreading like wildfire. Whether true or not, it has given fans something they haven't had in a long time. Genuine belief that the impossible might finally be possible. And in the unpredictable world of the NFL, sometimes belief is the spark that changes everything. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!